Hello and welcome back for another Runewars battle report. This is my game 3 from the UK Nationals and I was drawn against Lewis with his Waiqar. Love me a bit of undead. My list is fairly unchanged, well completely unchanged from the previous videos. Lewis had a 2x2 block of archers with the Wind Rune, Combat Ingenuity and Raven Standard Bearer, a big block of reanimates with a Death Caller, a Blighted Vexillum, a Standard Bearer, Metered March, Support Lancer, Simultaneous Orders, Ardus with the Shield of Margarth and Ancient Technique, a 3 unit of Wraiths with Trumpets, Undying Hate and Raven Tabards, and a single Lancer with rank Discipline. He had explained to me, I had a look at the cards and I decided I didn't like the look of the Death Caller, so my first aim in this game was to try and take that thing out, mostly because I didn't quite understand what it did. So here's our deployment. We're playing Demoralize Their Forces with meeting engagement, so small deployment zones here. Demoralize Their Forces, for me, is quite good because I'm quite mobile. I've got some good flanking units, and the undead can be fairly difficult to maneuver. So turn 1, here we go. We've got a couple of green runes, so good for my Wind Rune. So here we go. Basically, all that's really happened is we've shifted around, moved up. My Scion here is trying to face any potential threats over there. I'm being a bit more cautious with my Leonks so that I can actually use them for this game. Aliana is basically trying to beeline it so we can get around and get into his archers. The rest of these guys are a bit more cautious, trying to stay out of potential charge range of these guys so we can get some shooting going on. And to be honest, not a whole lot happened. So we go straight into turn 2. Still 2 green runes, no red runes. Not that the Storm Sorceress will do anything. Bring my Scion round here on the flank. My archers open up, try and open fire and try and do a bit of damage. We do reasonably well, but we get, most importantly, we get the one hit, the actually token that we need so we can take out his Death Caller. His Ardus is coming round, and a move worthy of my previous game, he miscalculates and Ardus takes a wound from running into those spikes. My archers try dialed in a shot just in case any of his stuff had moved in. Nothing really came of that. I think his solo lancer had popped a Blighted on Aliana, who's just gone screaming past and shifted round. His archers are using their Wind Rune to get away from her. You'll see these guys here are trying to move to face the threat. My Leonks picked up a panic token somewhere along the way. This guy again, some speculative shooting. His Wraiths have moved round whilst these guys are facing them. We've got a bit of a face-off going on here, which is a bit of a bother for me because looking at this and with their Raven Tabards, there's no way I can get away from their charge, which is fairly unfortunate. So into turn 3, a couple of red runes, ooh, but 2 greens. So here we go, his Wraiths go in early and charge my guys, and as you see I saw that coming, so I've got my shift and my Wind Rune to try and get away from him. I only lose 3 archers, so nothing too bad. These guys take some shots. I'm fairly certain try and get a wound off here. This guy's just coming in to try and block off some paths here. His solo worms actually gone smacking into the side of my Leonks. And Aliana up here, as you can see, is continuing her shift round to try and take out these guys, who are actually being fairly difficult to pin down, as it turns out. And finally, these guys shift away and do the Storm Sorceress, and for once I do 4 damage, which is a tray of Wraiths. That's the one time, I think, in this entire tournament, all 4 games, that thing did anything, and this is where I end up after the Wind Rune. Into turn 4, again 2 red, so maybe my trees are a bit more armoured up and a couple of greens. It's pretty much the perfect one for me. Some fairly bad stuff happens here. These guys, 4 of them die to his archers, who now have a shot on them, so punk. That was unfortunate. Now, I was fairly confuzzled here. I was fully expecting these guys to go back into my archers, but instead he's moved them around and reformed them. And I think he told me afterwards that because it's demoralised their forces, he was trying to get the side charge in on here. These guys have shot and again picked a wound off these. And the riders, I think, are just attacking him in the side. Actually, no. What I've done here is I dialed in a move with these guys, because essentially what happened is I dialed in the shot with them because he only had 1 or 2 wounds left. And these guys, so long as their tempered steel is not used up, they can fairly reliably do 6 damage with their threat of 2. What I hadn't seen is these guys being able to shoot me, so then I dialed in the attack. It was a risky move, right? And I messed it up, because what I wanted was for these threat 2 archers to take him off, and these guys would have been able to come around and get stuck in. But as it stands, because his archers were able to kill a tray, they then did only 1 wound to the carrion archer, and my move was completely wasted on the Leonks. Next turn, no red runes. Oh no, the Storm Sorcerers will be able to not do anything. I get some shooting off here. I've done some damage here, probably with the tree. Some description is Ardus is trying to get involved. I go charging in with my tree into his big block. I just want to hold them up. But I managed to do a bit of damage. And basically I want to pin them in place so my Aliana can come in and get the flank charge to get those objective tokens. He's reformed. No, this guy here, they're now in combat. I think I just moved in just to get involved with them, because I think he wind wounded them away, which meant that when he moved forward, I just went crashing into them, hence the panic token, and they're now immobilized. These guys finally kill off his worm. I get some shots off onto his wraiths, and there's only 1 lone wraith left at this point. These guys are just trying to get away from the wraiths and reform so they can actually face them. He's reformed his skellies, and it means my tree is going to get more dice on them, but crucially it means I'm not going to get the flank charge with Aliana. And this is the board state at this point. He's moved Ardus in to intercept Aliana. Some archers here ready to try and shoot here. Some more archers, and they're just grinding away. This tree's being an absolute hero. So turn 6. 2 greens, 2 blues, 2 reds. Aliana's gone in and has destroyed Ardus. We keep fighting here, but so he's dialed in the attack, and all he's actually managed is the mother of all panic checks on my tree, who by the looks of it has to turn around. And that actually, so he's had to turn around and run away from the panic check, but you know that this actually helps me massively. In this fight that no one cares about, my trees are whittling them down. Now, these guys have now got stuck into the tree. So, yeah, whilst it wasn't the best outcome I thought I could fit through, at least it's given me the option for next turn for these riders to come in and smash into the flank. So, early on, this tree now gets out of the way. He's taken a couple of wounds. He gets out of dodge, which means that before his skeletons can do anything, I go in and start wailing on them. Somehow I've managed to get my archers into the flank of his wraith, but not a lot happens. These guys have gone in. I think he managed to get his armor up relatively early, so I've only managed to kill 5. Not a whole lot happens here. More skellies die. I think I shoot in with my archers, so I managed to kill a couple more. Not a lot comes from the panic check. I actually kill a couple more from my Storm Sorceress. And we go into turn 7. His reanimates are just dying bit by bit. I tried to attack with my tree, but they'd managed to scoot out the way. We're into turn 8. At this point of the game, it really is just the grind. We're tracking some dice at each other. 2 runes, 2 reds, 2 greens, and 1 blue. Allian had dialed in a charge, but unfortunately they actually are able, with their rally wind rune, they're actually able to wind rune out of the way before she gets in. In this combat here, my Leonks are just chugging away. In this combat, my archer is surviving somehow against this one lone wraith. I'd programmed in a charge with my son, who now just comes face to face with the boss lady herself, and they're both wondering how on earth did these archers manage to get away. And at this point, through my shooting and fighting, not a lot of this unit is left. This archer has survived. And there we go. So we tote it all up, and it turns out that I'd managed to claw 185 points from him somehow, and he had pipped 21 victory points from me, basically the small unit of archers, which led to a 10-1 win for me. The 185 is, I think, because of I got those. I got a flank charge, so I got those extra 20 points from there. So great to get a win finally. I think I'm getting the hang of the Waiqar matchup, mostly because I've got the extra maneuverability. It just seems that the other factions are my big problem. So stay tuned and join me for game 4.